Marcus Aurelius said, "What we do in life echoes through eternity." What is your life echoing through eternity? Welcome to Echoes Through Eternity with Dr. Jeffrey Skinner. Our mission is to inspire, engage, and encourage leaders from across the globe to plant missional churches and be servant leaders. So join us and hear the stories of servant leaders reverberating lives as God echoes them through eternity. Brought to you by Missional Church Planting and Leadership Development and Dynamic Church Planting International.
Welcome to Echoes Through Eternity. I am your host, Dr. Jeffrey D. Skinner. Every moment, every story holds an echo of God's voice. What's He saying in yours today? Today's episode is entitled The Power of No. You have heard the call to say yes. Say yes to every invitation, every chance to serve, every door that cracks open. It sounds noble and feels right in the moment. But here's a quiet truth. A life of endless yes can unravel your calling. It scatters your focus and it leaves you hollow. Today we lean into the power of no. This simple word holds the strength to guard your time, to shield your peace, and to draw your heart nearer to God. James and Claudia Altucher remind us that no can unlock health, abundance, and a deeper joy. Terry Newhoff calls it the secret to stewardship, the secret to stewarding your time, your energy, your very life. In Scripture, it names this as wisdom itself. In a culture that applauds the hustle, that wears busyness like a badge of courage, like a badge of honor, no becomes our path to true balance. We will get practical today. We're going to uncover steps to wield this power with grace. I ask you to stick with me, so let us begin. In church planting, balance is extremely important. In fact, we have 12 biblical principles that we follow, and one of them is the balance principle. And the reason we have this is that we recognize that everything is calling out to you when you're planting a church. Everything is new. Everybody's excited. They want to pull you here and there. But if you don't learn to say no, you're going to burn out. And in fact, that is the number one reason that a church plant fails, is because the planter, he or she, gets so burned out that they give up. And that's why I always tell those that I coach to make sure you have a vision and a mission that are clear. That vision and mission help you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Because the reality is that when you have your vision and mission, you're going to say no to a lot more than what you say yes to. If you do not, you will say yes to everything, and burnout is the consequence. So what are some practical steps to this? One, clarify your God-given priorities. So this is kind of like the mission statement for your life. You cannot say no with clear eyes until you know what your yes is, until you know your purpose. What deserves your deepest energy? What has God whispered as your anchor in this season? Take a moment, grab a notebook, jot down your top 3 priorities. Maybe it's your family, the quiet pull of your calling, or the rhythm of your soul's rest with God, and hold them close. Now stop the podcast, sit down and write them out, and then come back. Now, when a new request lands, a new committee, an extra meeting, a favor that tugs, ask this: does it line up with these 3? If the answer is no, let your no flow from that truth. Terry Newhoff puts it plainly: if you do not decide what matters most, the world will choose for you. We call this ordering our loves. God at the center, everything else in its place. I remember a pastor friend wrestling with this. He said yes to every church event until one day he looked up and realized that his children had not shared a full Saturday with him in months. Guilt hit him hard, but then clarity came. He drew a line, and on Saturday mornings, he spent that time with his family. Morning breakfast, no exceptions. That one boundary, it breathed life into his home. The laughter returned, presence deepened, and the passion for his ministry increased. Let me share something from my own experiences as a chaplain. This was back in Georgia. I served several chicken plants, and this actually was not one that I was serving at the time, and there was an accident. And as a result of that accident, there were several employees that were killed. Well, you can imagine that it was chaos. For the next few weeks, there were families that were in crisis. There were grieving spouses. Every room, every family was pulling at my sleeve. I had people calling me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. One guy was calling, had survivor's guilt because he was the one that had to pull them out. And in fact, he was pulling them out and he was almost overcome himself. And the paramedics, the firefighters all had to stop him and force him to stop. Otherwise, he would have died too. So I was going through this. I've been doing it for several months because it was just such a big crisis. And I reached out to my boss and explained what was going on. And he said, Jeff, he said, the one thing you have to remember as a chaplain is there is a God and you are not it. God is going to take care of these people. There's other chaplains out there. Call on the other chaplain team members out there. You don't have to do it all. And that day taught me a lesson. I just had to recognize that I've got to have balance. I'm not able to do it all. And that no to the urgent open space for the eternal, that gave me balance. It wasn't abandonment, even though I dealt with I struggled with that for a while. It was presence of the Lord, the kind that echoes God's own heart. And so when you root your no in priorities like these, it stops feeling like rejection. It becomes faithfulness, a quiet yes to what God has already said yes to you, yes to in you. So let that settle. Your priorities aren't walls, they are pathways. Number 2, audit your time and energy. Now let's look at the hours you already give. Carrie Newhoff talks about the green zone, those pockets of your day when your mind hums with focus, when ideas flow clear and strong. My wife uses a paper calendar still, and she has every day marked in there. She color codes it. You can do the same thing with an electronic calendar. I like the electronic calendar. I like it on my phone. Regardless, pull up your calendar, whether it's paper or electronic, and look at the week ahead and color it like this, or come up with your own scheme if you want to do that, but come up with a system. So green for Carrie Newhoff, green is his peak energy. Yellow is his steady middle. And red is for when he just runs on fumes. You do the same thing. If you don't want to use his system, create your own. But create this 3-tiered system that helps you determine when you're at your best. The green hours, you want to guard them fiercely. They belong to your highest work, your deepest prayers, because they belong to God. John Wesley urged us to redeem the time, not squander it in scattered motion, but invest it where fruit grows. Think of this as stewardship. You would not hand over your wallet to a stranger. Why hand your best hours to what leaves you empty? Start small. Shift one green slot this week. Use it for what stirs your soul. Watch how no to the lesser things frees space for the eternal. And coming it right after this short break, a simple rule to turn those hasty yeses into moments of real discernment. Stay with me, and we'll be right back. Hypernatural. We have been naming what drains us, what deserves our no. But no also opens doors to yes, to what truly restores. And that is where Hypernatural comes in for me. You can find them at hypernaturalstyle.com. These are not just shirts. They're the finest men's polos and button-ups that I've ever worn. They're soft as a whisper, tough as a road. Men's Journal crowned them the best men's polo shirts of 2024. And get this, they weave jade, stone, and crab shells into the fabric that cools your body 3 to 5 degrees with their hypercool jade technology. It's breathable, eco-smart, 95% biodegradable, 0 polyester. Made better by nature, just as the name promises. If you're tired of synthetics that cling and overheat, head to hypernaturalstyle.com. Use my code ECHOES for 20% off your first order. That's just for you, listeners of Echoes Through Eternity. Again, that is hypernaturalstyle.com. Use the code ECHOES. Say yes to comfort that lasts. Back to our next portion here. Number 3, establish a 24-hour rule. Saying no starts before the word even forms. It begins in the pause. Next time an ask comes your way, try this. Smile and say, I would love to pray that. I'll pray on that and check my calendar. Can I get back to you in 24 hours? That breath of space, it breaks the rush. It also breaks the guilt of the moment, and it helps you to examine whether or not this is a passion, whether or not it's part of your call, whether or not this is your mission if you're planting a church here. But it invites wisdom as well. In those hours, sift it through 3 questions. Does this fit my calling? Will it build me up or wear me down? And if I lean yes, what no am I speaking something else to? Here, St. Ignatian discernment offers a gentle guide. St. Ignatius taught us to notice the stirrings in our hearts, the quiet constellations that draw us towards God, like peace in prayer or a spark of joy in service. And the desolations, those heavy doubts, the restlessness that scatters the soul, sit with them. Journal what rises. Ask the Spirit to reveal what God has aligned for his good pleasure. Jesus modeled it this way. He slipped away to pray before the weighty choices. Solitude with the Father sharpened his steps. Your 24-hour rule is not a delay, it is discernment, a prayerful no that honors the God who times all things perfectly. Number 4, build your stop doing. Most of us chase to-do lists like lifelines, but here's the quieter power, the stop doing list. James Altucher warns that every unchecked yes robs time from your true path. Prune what no longer serves. Make room for what blooms. Jesus said it in John 15, even branches heavy with fruit face the shears. Cutting back leads to more. Sit with your calendar. Name the 3 things to stop. Maybe it's scrolling late into the night or volunteering where your heart has checked out. This is something that you need to recognize. Not everything is an eternal yes. If you say yes to leading a small group, you don't have to lead that small group forever. In fact, you should be mentoring someone to take your place. So after a year or two, if your heart is no longer in it, or if your gifts are better used somewhere else, or your priorities are somewhere else, hand that over to the person that you've been mentoring. We hold on as leaders. Sometimes we hold on to too much power. We have to be ready to give that power away. Here's something else. If there's meetings, circle that are just circling without landing. In other words, that they have no real point. Write them down and release them. Feel that freedom. Your stop doing list is not loss. Loss is harvest. Number 5, set boundaries that protect relationships. Boundaries get a bad rap sometimes. Selfish people whisper, but no, boundaries are sacred ground. They guard what God treasures. Your connections, your rest, your very spirit. Say no to the late night call that steals tomorrow's dawn. Protect that family dinner table. Your Sabbath without apology. You cannot give from a well gone dry. Henri now knew this ache deep in his bones. He wrestled with the pull to give without end, to love without limits, until it threatened to hollow him out. In his wisdom, he wrote that only when we set our own boundaries can we truly honor those of others with respect and even gratitude. Boundaries are not barriers to love. They shape it, make it sustainable, like a river held by gentle banks. They protect the inner sanctuary where God meets us, so we return to community, not empty, but full. Brene Brown carries this further, showing how boundaries and vulnerability walk hand in hand. She says vulnerability minus boundaries, not vulnerability. True openness, the kind that builds real connection, asks us to risk exposure, yes, but only within lines we draw with courage. Saying yes, saying no feels raw at first, like stepping into the light without armor. Yet, it is that very bravery that lets us show up whole, without resentment, building in the shadows. Boundaries do not shut others out. They invite them into the self God is shaping. Practice the graceful no. I am so honored you thought of me, but my plate is full right now. Thank you for understanding. These words don't push away. They draw near what matters. In them, love finds its shape. After this quick pause, we'll come full circle to the rest that makes it all possible. Those sacred rhythms that whisper God's trust. Don't miss it. Cozy earth. Boundaries like these remind me how rest weaves into every good rhythm. And in speaking of rest, let me share what has deepened sleep for Lisa and me. Cozy Earth at cozyearth.com. And they don't just sell sheets. They sell pajamas, they sell blankets, and they are some of the softest blankets that you'll find, some of the best sheets you'll find. They craft bamboo sheets and pajamas that feel like a gentle embrace. Kris Jenner swears by them for her nights, and Oprah has named them to her favorite things list 7 years running. They're made from 100% premium bamboo viscose. They wick away moisture with something that Lisa loves because she gets so hot in the middle of the night. You stay cool. and they soften with every wash. Plus, they have a 100-night trial and a 10-year warranty and free shipping for over $50. Are you ready to say no to tossing and turning? Visit CozyEarth.com and enter Echoes for 41% off site-wide. This is their best offer yet, and it's not going to last long, but it's exclusively made for you. 41% off. Sleep well, live restored, CozyEarth.com. Number 6, creating rhythms of rest. We close where it all circles back. Rest. Sabbath is not a suggestion. It is God's invitation to trust. When he rested on the seventh day, he was not weary. He was whole, complete. That's the number 7 in the Bible. It means complete. It's not necessarily when we see numbers, they're not necessarily descriptive. They're more symbolic. So you carve out 24 hours each week. Unplug, breathe. Let it begin with what feeds your soul. A walk in the woods, a slow meal with those you love. End it in gratitude and the eyes lifted. In that space, you declare, God holds the world when I step away. No to striving, yes to surrender. This rhythm of no does more than recharge. It realigns. It echoes eternity in the pause. So my prayer for you as we close this out today is that the Lord would grant you the quiet strength of no and help you see the boundaries that you draw as gifts, not chains. They would give you hearts that were brave enough to protect what you have called good. Next week, coming up, I will be joined by Jenna and Rigel Garcia from the I Have a Message Foundation. And then stay tuned as well, because coming up soon, we'll be having a conversation with Eddie and Lauren Stewart, a young couple planting a church in Jackson, Tennessee. They're still in the early days. They're casting vision, building a core team, and praying for direction and trusting God in the waiting with their young family. We often celebrate the big success stories, but what I want you to hear is what faithfulness looks like before the launch. When the call is clear, but the future is still unfolding. They're scary days because often you sacrifice just as they have a lot to get there. You're making yourself vulnerable and sharing with the community and putting yourself out there in the community. You're hosting events, not knowing if anyone's going to show up. So join us as we interview Eddie and Lauren Stewart with the Formed Church in Jackson, Tennessee. Well, this is Echoes Through Eternity with Dr. Jeffrey D. Skinner. Again, I ask you, if you've enjoyed this, share this with a friend of yours, post it on your social media. Again, till we meet again, we ask that you walk in the power of wise restraint. Peace be to you.